Did you think that Ray-Ban glasses were actually made by Ray-Ban? Did you think that Tom Ford glasses were actually made by someone even semi-competent? Did you think that having Chanel, Ralph Lauren, Prada written on the side of your frames actually makes them better? Well, I'm sorry to say, but in today's video, I'm going to be shattering that illusion. And in all seriousness, the world of designer glasses is a mysterious place. So we're going to be clearing everything up for you and helping you understand what makes a good pair of glasses and which of these brands you actually might want to consider for your next pair. So hi, I'm Robert, Style and Vision Consultant here at the Spectacle Factory, and it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. And viewers of this channel will know I am super passionate about independent eyewear, companies that just make glasses. That's all they do, that's what they live and they breathe. They make the best glasses in the world. However, we are often drawn to a name, and a lot of those names are actually a little bit of a charade. Not many designer brands are actually made by the company that owns the brand itself. Today we're going to be looking at the different eyewear manufacturers, almost exclusively based in Italy, and which brands that they produce, which ones are better quality, which ones, in my opinion, are worse quality, and looking at some of the best showcases from some of the brands that we stock here at the Spectacle Factory. So let's get into it. We'll work from right to left. So there are, as I said, a bunch of large manufacturers that tend to hold all of the eyewear licenses. The most famous, perhaps infamous, is Luxottica. And I'm very passionate about not dealing with Luxottica for certain reasons. It's interesting to draw parallels between Luxottica and Safilo, who we do deal with. Let me explain. So this is a Jimmy Choo frame. It's not made by Jimmy Choo at all. It's actually made by a company called Safilo, who are an old and historic eyewear manufacturer based in Italy. In my opinion, the quality of Safilo is very good for this segment. They do tend to care about their customers. The warranties are really, really good. And they are quite an innovative brand as well. For example, being the inventors of the spring hinges that are now almost ubiquitous in glasses. This Jimmy Choo frame is pretty high quality. It's made from stainless steel with a glitter material embedded within the temple that follows through to the center of the bridge. And it's a really cool shape as well. Obviously, it's a lady's shape, and Jimmy Choo being a primarily ladies brand, this is more feminine. So it's probably not going to look too great on me. But for ladies who like that blingy, classical Jimmy Choo aesthetic, where it's a real fashion statement, this is quite a nice, pretty frame. You contrast that against Luxottica. Luxottica have made a very concerted attempt to actually dominate the global eyewear market by not only owning a lot of eyewear stores, online retailers, and insurance companies, believe it or not, but also controlling a lot of the global supply chain. Now, Luxottica frames, in my opinion, are so much worse quality than Safilo by comparison. When you look at, for example, let's take Ray-Ban, their most iconic brand. Ray-Ban frames generally now are tending to be injection molded plastic rather than acetate. If you get a plastic frame from Safilo, the chances are it will be acetate, as you see on this frame, which also has the glitter embedded within the temples. But in this case, it's a black glitter, which actually looks really classy in my opinion. This is more of an undersized hexagonal shape, which is cool. Again, for a lady that wants that kind of classy look, that's elegant, quite fun and playful. This is a reasonably finished acetate frame. In the vast majority of Luxottica brands, they're actually not using acetate, or if they are, it's a really poor quality acetate that you can tell feels really plasticky to the touch. And my advice, if you're shopping for glasses, is to avoid pretty much anything made by Luxottica. Because number one, they're not the most ethical company, trying to monopolize the eyewear market and make it a worse place for consumers and opticians. But number two, any brand they buy, for example, Oakley or Ray-Ban, the quality instantly plummets. But the price increases. So they're very, very good at leveraging their control of the market for profit. Safilo, on the other hand, I feel like there is a level of ingenuity there where there is a bit of creativity. Let's take, for example, the 1444, which is an awesome new Hugo Boss frame. The finishing on this, the flatness of the acetate, the polishing that's applied to it, it is a stunning frame. This is actually genuinely a really, really cool frame. And this is the kind of stuff that Safilo produce at the very cutting edge of what they do. Yes, it's not quite Barton Pereira, but on the other hand, it's half the price. And it comes with an awesome sun clip. This sun clip is one of the best sun clips that I've seen. It really transforms the frame, adds this beautiful blue tint, And it's so interesting how they've designed the sun clip, because it's actually a solid piece of acetate with a magnet embedded and two lenses somehow fused into the acetate itself. So it's completely seamless. And when it's applied on, it also appears completely seamless. A really cool cutting edge look. My principle when choosing frames for my clients is that, would I recommend it if it didn't have the brand? And yes, in this case, 100%. Whilst we're on the subject of Hugo Boss, the 1438 is a really cool oversized aviator style square acetate frame. Again, real acetate. With Safilo, almost all the plastic frames they produce now are pure acetate. These have an integrated spring hinge, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but generally you will find that in fashion brands, they have spring hinges. Why? So they fit a wider array of face shapes. You will find that in fashion brands produced by these kind of companies, sizing is deliberately designed to be more or less average so that it fits more people, which has its pros and cons. Obviously, it makes them more commercial, but it means that if you don't have an average face shape, and how many of us really do, they're not going to fit perfectly. The spring hinge mitigates that to an extent at the expense of being a weak point that will eventually fail, sadly. Third Safilo brand that I've got to show you today is Carolina Herrera. Very, in my opinion, basic ladies acetate frames. They're quite pretty, they're quite cute, but they definitely don't appear to be made that well. But then again, they are a lower price point. And for kind of an entry-level designer brand, I quite like Carolina Herrera and Longchamp, which we're going to get onto. This one is actually one of the better Carolina Herrera frames, and it's also more expensive. I know, again, it's a ladies style, it's definitely not going to suit me, but I like to model it for you so you get an idea or an impression of how it does look. The pearlescent orbs on the temples are a nice touch, something that I've not seen done too often, and the rose gold coloration I do quite like when paired with that faded gradient acetate. But that leads me nicely onto Longchamp, and Longchamp are produced by a company called Marchon. Marchon are, I would say, kind of mid-tier in terms of quality. Definitely better than Luxottica, not as good as Safilo, in my honest opinion. Longchamp's a good example of that because these are not bad frames at all. If you're a lady looking for kind of middle of the road, average styled frames that still are a little bit different than the typical brands that you see, like Ray-Ban, for example, I would recommend them. Although I always like people to be a bit braver with their eyewear. I feel like these are very safe. And that's something you will see with Marchon. They're not very fashion forward. They're very safe, very commercial. I kind of like Marchon, but we're moving away from them since they lost the license for Chloe, which is the next brand that we're going to look at. I am actually a huge fan of Chloe as a brand. They used to be produced by Marchon. The quality was good, but I have noticed that it's improved a lot since moving over to Kering. And this is something that you'll see with licensed brands, is they do jump ship a lot. So what that means for you as a consumer is that, let's say you own a Longchamp frame and 6 months later, a different company buys the license for Longchamp. Your warranty is in big trouble. You'll find that most companies won't honor the warranties for frames that they sell after they've lost a license. But equally, the new company doesn't want to know because it's not a frame that they made in the first place. So you really do get stuck in limbo. And sometimes for us as an optician, that's a really difficult place to be because we want to support the customer, but we don't have a manufacturer to go back to. Nevertheless, this is the Chloe 00980, a new style for 2023 from Chloe, a vintage style Havana coloration, classic cat eye style, and the best bit, the twisty arms, which, love it or hate it, is a fun style element, which for me, Chloe are extremely playful, even more so than Jimmy Choo, which tend to be a little bit more dressed up. These are a lot more casual, but can still be worn dressed up at the same time. On the subject of the manufacturer themselves, Kering are actually probably at the top of the tree. And the reason for that is because Kering is a company that actually owns these brands. So the difference is they're not licensing the brand name to make glasses with the logo on, like all of the other ones that I've talked about up till now. Kering actually own Chloe. So it's in their interest to produce really high quality Chloe glasses that represent the brand really, really well. I'm a much bigger fan and proponent of that model because, like I said, it just feels more authentic. And you can definitely see that with Chloe in particular. The quality has improved in the last couple of years since moving away from Marchon. One thing they still do really well are these oversized, or in this case, undersized metal frames. Chloe makes some really beautiful ladies' metal styles, which actually they were at the very forefront of as a brand. Let's talk about Cartier next. So Cartier stand apart from all other fashion brands because they're not really fashion based. They're more iconic, they're more jewelry inspired. Cartier kind of stand alone from everybody else. They behave like an independent brand and a fashion brand and a jewelry brand all rolled into one. And a lot of their glasses are still produced by them in France. Then other models like the 0340 that you see here are made in places like Italy or Japan in this case. And Japanese eyewear manufacturing is absolutely the best of the best in most areas of eyewear manufacturing. So knowing that Kering work with factories in Japan, as well as Italy and France, shows that they are more diverse in terms of who's producing the glasses. Whereas all Safilo, all Marchon are made in Italy. Luxottica are classed as made in Italy, but I'm not so sure, but I don't want to get into legal trouble here. These are definitely produced in places like Japan, Italy, and France. And the best models do come from France. Or I should say the most distinct models come from France, because France has a rich history in eyewear manufacturing. It's actually where eyewear manufacturing began, in the Jura region. Nowadays, only the most different frames, the ones that are the most kind of unique, are made in France. And the buffalo horn styles that Cartier make are no exception. This is the 0046. Here you see it in a white buffalo horn. And this is quite a rare buffalo horn because it's almost pure white, which you hardly ever see. There is some patination on it, and each buffalo horn frame will have different patination, but this one is particularly white, and that makes it really desirable, really collectible. This is the quintessential Cartier look. And do you see any other eyewear brand, any well-known eyewear brand producing glasses like this? No, because generally speaking, they follow the fashions, they produce what is going to be sellable at that time. Cartier really don't. They make what is true to their brand identity, that is special to them, and that's why it's special to collectors and eyewear enthusiasts as well. It's the only mainstream brand that has transcended this whole kind of theme of licensed brands and fashion brands just doing glasses as like an aside. With Cartier, they are really passionate about it, and it shows in the glasses. And that's why Cartier have such a cult following, much more so than any other fashion brand that you can think of in eyewear at least. That said, I am a real big fan of the Gucci eyewear collection. I think Kering make really good, high quality Gucci frames. This one is another one made in Japan. You can see with the gold metal interlining and the gold rivets, which are highlighted by the crystal acetate. It's one of our most popular Gucci frames, and it's easy to see why, because it's super wearable, but still super fashionable and cool at the same time. Pair this with a tint for an amazing finish, and we love making this frame with various different tint options. And another made in Japan model, brand new again for 2023, is the 1224. This is such a luxurious looking, oversized aviator frame. It takes that look that Hugo Boss were attempting and just takes it up a notch. Typically maximalist as Gucci are. Again, this is a great example of how authentic Kering are and how true to the brand Kering are, because again, they own the brand. The light gradient tint on the lens, absolutely sumptuous, super cool frame. And hopefully you can see why Kering are definitely at the top of the tree when it comes to the big eyewear manufacturers. But I have one more wild card to show you, and these are pretty exceptional too. Here we have Chopard Eyewear, who are made by a company called Dorigo. They make collections like Police and a couple of others that are kind of lesser known, but Chopard I would say is probably their most well-known eyewear brand. Dorigo I'm not overall a huge fan of, but I do think the Chopard line is quite good because just like Cartier, they're all finished in precious metals. This one, for example, is again made in Japan, titanium, so it's ultra lightweight and finished with real rose gold plating. And it's a very classy ladies frame. Very, very comfortable as well. Incredibly comfortable actually, and super flexible. It does have spring hinges, which lets it down a little bit for me. I would much prefer that these were solid and the material itself was designed to be durable enough to take it, which to be fair, titanium is. There really wasn't a need for spring hinges. But again, it comes back to that principle of trying to fit as many faces as possible. For a lady who likes luxury and wants something a little bit different, I do recommend Chopard. They're just at that slightly lower price point than Cartier. And I think that's for a reason, because I do think Cartier are more desirable, but Chopard have a place as well. They make beautiful timepieces, beautiful jewellery. In the jewellery space, they're actually more expensive than Cartier, but in eyewear, slightly less so. But, you know, I think it's one brand that Dorigo make really well as the Lewis Hamilton collection in partnership with Police. And to round off the video, we've definitely got the most ornate pair of glasses, maybe the most ornate you've ever seen. These are actually amazing craftsmanship. You've got to hand it to them here. This is real high-end jewelry. Again, 23 karat gold, this time yellow gold, with an adornment of Swarovski crystals, just too many to even count. Some large, some small, beautiful shapes. If you're a lady who likes blingy, rimless glasses, the VCH G03S is a really stunning piece of rimless eyewear. Not just the adornments that I've talked about, but the shape as well. The other big eyewear manufacturer that I think we've not covered because I refuse to stock them, as well as Luxottica, is Marchon. And Marchon produce a few brands like Roberto Cavalli and most famously Tom Ford, who are, in my opinion, probably the most trash, low quality designer eyewear brand. I'm really, really not a fan of Tom Ford. They have improved a little bit in the last year or so, but I challenge you to find any Tom Ford frame where the T, and they all have that huge obnoxious T that comes around the front. I challenge you to find one where the T actually lines up between the front of the frame and the temple. It exists on paper, never in real life. And I'll leave you on that note. The quality of the brand itself, because Tom Ford, of course, great quality brand, is not necessarily representative of the quality of the glasses. And that's a really important principle to remember. You just get a feeling when you put them on as to how well made they are. And it is something that takes experience and trying on a few pairs of glasses, or coming to someone like us who will guide you in the right direction, because we always will. On that note, we do offer styling consultations for international customers all over the world. If you're interested in that, get in touch. Our contact information is in the description. But I hope you found this video interesting and useful, and I hope it maybe opened your eyes to the wide world of eyewear that might not be as you thought it was. But if you did enjoy this video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel for more of the best eyewear content on the internet, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks guys, bye bye.